We got a nice Leica stories in conversation with Jose Tutes Tutiven going on. We're gonna dive in. How did I do? How did I do on the name? Not
That
bad.
was pretty well, man. That's pretty
All
good.
right,
I
all
like how
right,
you said
good.
my last name pretty well.
There we go. Okay, I was worried.
Nah.
I'm bad. I'm bad with names. I butcher my own name. So, I want to welcome everybody. It's not often we do Friday events, dude. So if I'm
I
offering
heard.
you up a Friday date, I must really like your work. So
Man, I'm just honored, honestly, to tell you the truth. I rarely do these things. So I think when you came up to me, obviously, like it was just definitely like when we spoke about it earlier, and I think that's just it's the direction that I want to go with at least with this particular panel talk.
definitely. Well, I mean, look, we had a good conversation. I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm gonna get that text after we hung up. And it's gonna
Mm,
be like when you speak with somebody about doing an interview, it's kind of like talking to somebody on like a dating app. You have that conversation, and in my head, I'm like, all right, can I talk? Is he gonna talk? Am I gonna have to carry the conversation? And I know
mm,
the person that's on the other side, like, man, I don't want to do this interview with this guy. You get that text after, like, this ain't gonna work out. So
yeah.
we here now, so it worked out, right?
I mean, you've been doing this for a minute now, right? So you
Uh,
kind of gauge
yeah, I mean,
the
look,
direction that you're gonna like. You already know what you're gonna gauge on the person. Like if it's. I think you're just experiencing this, man. I think that's
well,
good. I couldn't be able to do it.
you gotta have the right vibe, right? And it's got to be about, so it's less about like I have to be able to get the information out,
Mhm.
right? Because I know you have the information, but for a lot of people, it's like, you know how it is as artists, we can do what we do, but can we talk about it?
Right.
And that's really like the power of inspiring people and motivating people is how well can you talk about what you do and how well can you convey what you do. So that's kind of why we're here today, because I think you have such an interesting outlook in that in a age of following trends and in an age of people trend hopping and going from one thing to the next, you kind of just do your own thing. Like you march to the beat of your own drum. It's been successful for you. I admire that about you. Your work is phenomenal. And I can look at your work and you can range from one thing to the next. It always has your stamp on it, but it's not cookie cutter. And I love
Mm.
that. Like you kind of just switch it up and you go with whatever the mood of the image is, or you pull out. Like I look at your images and it has that, especially in like some of your portrait work is just, you get that right expression. You know the moment. So I want you to talk a little bit about, before we get into like your philosophy and where we're at now, I want you to talk about like what has inspired you? What made you pick up a camera in the first place?
Oof. I mean, we're going back at like almost 2010, 2011. Um, just to give you some sort of context, like I was in corporate world for like 20 years, prior to that. And then when my daughter was born, um, I thought to myself as like, why would I want to like you know, go to these like Sears stores or like these like typical backdrops and just pay people to do that when I'm with her, every day. So I ended up picking up like a entry level camera, like a kit from like Costco, like those like two lenses with like, and actually correct. I bought it from Adorama. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh, sorry, shout out.
Oh man, she's throwing shots.
It was a deal. It was a deal. Anyway, I was a rookie.
Look, it's a
I didn't.
Costco membership. You got to take it.
I'll take the Costco. And then I ended up like using that as like a way of just wanting to like make sure I'll be ready for like any pictures that I wanted to like put on frames. And I didn't realize that, like that started really a fascinating sort of concept for me. Like um it kind of lit a fire up in me. And
Mm.
and it was intriguing enough for me to kind of like not stop doing it. As the years progressed, as I was working in like corporate world, I just ended up just calling out sick and wanted to do more because I wanted to take these like workshops about learning about like night photography, like landscape, black and white, abstract, portraiture, natural lighting, all these things that I wanted to find out what are the potentials in this. And I just ended up just being so fascinated to a point where I just felt like it was almost like a calling for me. I did have like a great career path, but I realized I wasn't happy what I was doing in general. Like, what was my purpose? And so, taking pictures at that point was just more of a purpose driven type of passion for me, and that sort of, I wanted to continue that feel. And it just got to a point where I realized this is it. This is what I want to do. And I left corporate world and I gave myself 1 year to see if this is it for me, if this is my next calling, if this is really meant for me. So for a whole year, I just did a lot of free work. Obviously, like I did, I saved enough money to kind of like, support that case, and then took a little gigs here and there. Instagram was definitely one of the aspects of me getting like a lot of jobs, because it was like early in the stages, way before influencers.
Mhm.
And I ended up just being hired and getting like attention through like that social media platform, and getting a lot of people wanting to work with me with like big clientele. Agencies started reaching out to me. And then it just kind of like it was like a snowball. It just put me in these situations and opportunities and people that were just as, like also in the community as well. Like everybody was
Mhm.
just so nice and passionate and so creative. And I've never been around this type of like environment. For me, it was like 9 to 5 corporate job. It's all about like salary, making the most money, like trying to find out how you can get more money through like the next type of like position, like that was the ambition back then. For me, it was like
Mhm.
all about like, all right, how do I get more money? How do I get to that point where it was just like, how to become more valuable, right? To like be more like important aspect for your employer. But I think once I got into photography, it was really just about me. Yeah, like anything I did invested was invested towards me. Like I wanted to be better, to see what my potential was, what are my limitations, and what I can succeed on. And I think that's what gave me more of a fire instinct of like understanding what photography for me was. It
Mhm.
was more about learning about myself and my potential, than really knowing about trying to prove it to somebody else, or what I'm capable of, or what I'm potential of, or what I got to do to show you that I'm good at. But with
Mhm.
photography, I think essentially in the core for me was just that, is learning like, what am I capable of doing for myself, and what are my limitations, and can I exceed on. And at the end it was just that was like the fuel in me. I just needed to find out, what can this do for me, not what I can do for them.
Did you
I
have a
think.
direction? Like, did you know when you made that jump, was it like, I wanna do commercial or
No,
fashion or editorial? You just kinda you knew you wanted to do it, you wanted out of the corporate world?
bro, I had no idea about photography. I didn't come from an industry of photography. I didn't know no like no famous photographers. I
Mhm.
didn't do study on it. I really didn't go to school for it. I had no creative like people around me other than the community of like, at that point, Instagram. That was my creative community. That was my sort of photography community. Those are the people I would connect with. Like literally, you go back like 2015, you'd be like, yeah, I met up with this stranger because
Yeah.
he just like I think you and I, you
It's a
come up, we both
different
came up.
age.
Yeah,
That was the suggested user era. That was before the bubble burst and
yeah,
influencer became a term rather than now Instagram is kind of just
yeah. That's
influencer
a
is a
different
term
part.
we throw around. But it's
Yeah,
like back in that, and it's like, but you were also able to take that Instagram, success, and turn it into real world success. And I think the one difference between that era and this era is now people are just looking for a number. They're looking for a number on their profile. They're looking for a blue
mhm,
check mark. They're
yeah,
not looking for an opportunity to take it and parlay it into something else. And I think that's what's important, is you have to parlay that Instagram success into real world success offline. And I think
yeah.
that's what you've done well.
I mean, definitely felt like there was a momentum there for me,
Hmm.
because of that, all that you mentioned. There was a momentum there for me. I used that to my advantage, but I also got lost through that. And when I
Really?
mean lost, is because I lost my identity of what exactly um, uh, I was doing this for. When you come from, for me, it was like the biggest adjustment for me when coming from corporate life to, let's say, freelancing life, or like entrepreneurship, whatever it is. The biggest thing is like, you're so used to working every day and getting paid every day, right? From corporate life. Whereas when you're a freelancer, you don't get paid every day. You're not you There's nothing out there. There's no money. There's no guarantee of income. So my state of mind was like, if I don't work, that means I'm not getting paid, or you're not valuable.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think that's where the biggest struggle for me was, like, the grind and the hustle was like, I need to be out there. I need to be productive. I need to meet people. I need to just shoot. even if I don't have a gig, I have to shoot. You know, that was for me because of the mentality that came from 9 to 5. It's like the whole thing of like waking up every day, taking the train, being at work, being so-called productive, checking out at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and going home and resting, right? That was the day routine. In freelance, you really, and when I went into freelance, I still had that state of mind. It's like, I have to get up. I have to go out into the streets or meet people or make meetings or be on emails or talk to somebody in order for me to feel like I'm valuable still, I'm productive. And through those years, the problem with me in that situation was that I've learned that you don't need to be out and about to be valuable. And it took me a long time to do that. And I felt like when I didn't get a job or I didn't get a gig or I wasn't being hired, felt like I wasn't really, um, I didn't really think I was like I didn't feel like photography maybe is not meant for me because I feel
Mhm.
like I wasn't being hired in those days, in those situations, in
Well,
those
because
days.
there was like that barrier, right? I mean, you remember that barrier of you especially living in New York, right? In New
Mm,
York,
yeah,
there's this really prestigious community of professional photographers where it's like you're linked into an association. You know, you're linked into a basically like a union or association of photographers. I use the term union loosely, not in the literal sense, but if you're not part of the club, if you didn't go to a visual arts school, if you
mm,
didn't go to school for photography, if you're not
right,
linked into the gallery scene,
right,
then, you know, because, and I think that's why your story resonates with me because it's like, I'm the same way. I was interested in photography. I picked up a camera. I kind of just dove in feet first, you know, not knowing where I was going. So you had to break that barrier between, you know, because remember with the Instagram come up, it was like you had a bunch of people who started on phones because of
mm,
Instagram.
mm,
Instagram got people interested in photography back before it was
right.
like TikTok reels and memes. It was people getting interested in photography through a phone. And then in New York City, it was the phase everybody went out and bought a Canon 5D Mark II and a 16 to 35 lens
Oh
and
my
ran
God,
around.
yeah, that was
You
the
know,
thing. Yeah,
everybody had it. And then it was like you
shooting at
still
1.2.
had shooting
Every
wide
shot was at
open.
1.2.
And you ultimately, at some point in your career, right, to get to where you were to where you are now, you had to break that barrier of when you break into the industry and you have people who have maybe worked on set and worked in studios and worked
Mm,
as grips
right,
and
right,
they came up through the ranks and then this Tutes guy just comes in. It's like, wow, he's getting a job because he's talented. And these people are like, well, I went to, you know,
right,
SVA, I went to
right.
Pratt, I went to, you know, wherever, and I worked up through the ranks. And now you have this new crop of photographers that they just popped up out of nowhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
was there any kind of like, did you have to fight through anything, or was there a anything lost in that process?
I think I will say that I have respect for anyone and everybody who's in the creative field now more than ever because um I will say that I never thought I was as good as the next person or better than the next person. I always focused on me, honestly. I didn't want I was very humble on those situations. Like whether you are a fan of me or I'm a fan of you, you still I feel like we're both in the same creative, passionate realm. So I mostly respected that than what you have accomplished because it's hard to be in this industry as an individual. The perseverance itself and determination to be in this field full time, to be passionate about it, it's a lot of hard work. So whether you've been at it for 20, 30 years, or like you just beginning, I still respect you in the same level because on the passionate and creative aspect of it, I do feel like each person has something that you can learn from because of how they've come through life and experiences. So there's always a value in that, even if it's just a story they share. I feel like that's something I felt passionate about meeting people, whether you're a pro or non-pro, and that there's always something that I feel like I've learned from these people that can benefit me in my career as I continue to grow in this. So I've never saw it as like when I meet people in the business, I never saw it as a competition, honestly. I know that I'm always going to be a student to this game. I'm always feel like I'm need to continually learn. There's always
Love
stuff
that.
that I don't know And I've always felt afraid of doing like these workshops and doing these like type of like talks because I don't know all the answers. And so I feel like I've never excelled to that point, even though I'm going on like almost 9 years freelancing in this, and I still feel like I'm a rookie. And despite of how many experiences and assignments and projects that I've done and the type of people and type of assignments, I still feel like I'm a rookie. It took me a long time to understand licensing. It took me almost 3 or 4 years to understand the concept of like the business aspect and marketing aspect of this, not just the
Good point.
technical side. The skill set. The skill set is a whole different element than learning about like the actual business of photography. So that's always like it's always a constant, like it's almost like going to school every year to learn about business because it's constantly changing. It's like a trade school type of thing. Oh, I need to, like, remember when Microsoft was out? It's like if you were in IT tech, you got to get licensed and certified for every single like new upgrade. It's like, oh, you got to get upgrade to get like to understand this. It's like that's
Yeah.
what I feel like right now. It's like something new comes out, new camera comes out, new software comes out. Anything that's new, I'll be like, oh, let me go find out if this is something that I need to know for my business, if it helps me, or if it helps me in my career, or it helps me in my personal like shooting aspect. So it's like, no, I'm gonna say, going back to the question, is like I don't think I ever felt that anything or anyone hindered me or became an obstacle for me to continue to pursue what I feel passionate about. I always felt like there's always gonna be barriers in this. I think I'm used to like grinding and hustling and going over obstacles. So it's not really, and being broke. So it's like, I mean, being broke for me is like, oh, I don't got to check, but I'm a hustle and grind to see what I can do in the next month.
Being comfortable with the idea of being broke is
Yeah.
because then you don't stress it and you learn to just accept it
Because
as like it is what it is.
if you're coming from a background where you're constantly like living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
let's just say that
Anybody in the
way.
arts, anybody in
And
photography.
exactly, it's like you're not afraid. Yeah, like the fear of not having money is always going to be there. Finances are always going to be an issue, but like the
Yeah.
fear of being broke, it's not something that's new to me. When I left, corporate life, it's like
Mhm.
I'm always broke. Even when I was like corporate life, I felt like I was still broke. Yeah, there was stability of income,
You were
but bro,
broken. You were broken at that point.
and it's like I think honestly, people who want to do that is they don't understand of the concept of being broke, maybe that
Yeah.
makes them fear to make that leap of faith of going into freelancing. I
Does
think
does
that's the biggest fear for a lot of
yeah.
people. I think.
I look, me, I always thought about freelancing, and then I'm like, I'll admit it right here. It's more it puts me more at ease to know that like someone else is doing the work and I just
Mm,
collect the check. And all I have to do is hold up my end. Like I don't have to worry about the tax man or like, oh wait, hey, you filed your taxes wrong.
yeah,
Wait, but what? But I didn't make any money this quarter. Yeah, but you still got to file a return saying you didn't make any money. And like just like that aspect of it.
yeah, yeah,
But like does that almost keep the passion up? Because I know everybody
yeah.
says, right? It's this cliche as a photographer, any creative in general, once it turns into work, it like once you blur the line between what your release is and what your creative outlet is, and once it becomes work, you can hit a wall. It
Mm,
become because you're taking something you love and you're turning it into work. And at the end of the day, work is work.
yeah.
So have you experienced that, or is it kind of I haven't freelanced. So for anybody out there who's like thinking like, oh, maybe I want to freelance, maybe I want to leave the corporate world, which is probably half of the corporate
Oh,
world.
sure, sure, sure.
Does it have you hit a wall? Like, have you hit a really bad wall where you're like, consider going back, or does the passion
Oh
and
yeah.
the passion sticks through and just that grind of I'm doing this, it's the excitement of freelancing. Does that keep you driven?
Every day, every day. There's not a question that I always question whether or not this is like, is this, did I make the right move this year of doing this? And I try not to, I think that I've been, just to go back on the question, is like, yes, I have quote unquote said to myself, I'm quitting and just going back to like a secure type of lifestyle, like a job. And I decided I did go back to a part-time job during COVID,
Mhm.
right after COVID. And I said, look, my business, I don't know what I'm gonna do after all this. So, and literally I applied. It was easy. It was so easy. It was like, because of just experience exactly what people are looking for. I'm like, yeah, I could do this. This is not easy. This is easy money. It's like part-time job. I get to like know my like schedule and stuff like that. And the first day I did it, I immediately got somebody telling me, "Hey, are you available this day to shoot?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm
Oh
quitting."
no,
And I
that's a
immediately said,
sign.
I quit. And this is the things. It's like you see, like the peaks and valleys in this situation is that you're not always going to be on the top.
Yeah,
You're never gonna. You're not always. There's no consistency on the top.
yeah.
It's like
Especially
you.
now, it's like the talent pool is so vast, and with the
Oh yeah.
internet, it's made it even more
Oh,
so.
even yeah. I think at this point, it's like once you start to understand like the way you work and what you're
Mhm.
trying to aspire for, there's peaks and valleys because whenever you're trying to go into a new line of business in your own like career, you have to let go of a certain amount of things. You have to say no to a lot more things so those yeses of the things that you want to do come make room for. So in order to do that, you have to make sacrifices on like not trying to do both at the same time. Like perfect example is like video and photography, right? You
Mhm.
want to take a dab into video. You kind of have to say no to photography a little bit
Yeah,
and
totally.
stop with those gigs and try to put yourself out there as a quote unquote videographer in order for people to take you seriously. Because you can't be like, hey, I'm a photographer, but I do video on the side.
They don't want to
People are
hear
not going to take you
that's not
seriously.
confidence inspiring.
No, it's like you're just kind of like,
Like,
like
yeah, I
one
can wing
foot
it.
in, one foot out, one
Yeah.
foot in, one foot out. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. But for me, it's like there was a stage in my life that I went from photography to test video, and I did video for a whole year. I told myself I was like, I'm not taking no photography. I'm just doing video this whole year, and I did video. I did a lot of reels. I did a lot of like video work for a lot of campaigns, a lot of like clients, new clients and old clients, and they liked it. And I'm still doing video now because of TikTok. People hire me for TikTok just to do video because it's only
Wow.
8 seconds, like 10, 15 seconds. They
The
just want to
easiest paycheck.
it but see, I base it on that, on the concept of that. Took that risk like 4 or 5 years ago because I learned how to do videography,
Wow. So this is the
understanding
payoff. Yeah.
this is the payoff. So now it might not come immediately, but you have to wait. So, but when the opportunity comes and the timing is right, you'll be ready to take
Yeah.
those assignments. So now I'm right now, because it's so heavy with like video content, and my clients are like, do you do video for like, can you do like a couple of screens? Like, yeah, that's the point of like, I could do this is easy. So now I'm getting compensated, not just for photo, but I'm also getting compensated for video work. And there's not a lot of stress. I mean, I don't do no video editing, but that's a different landscape, you know.
Yeah.
For me, it's just capturing, knowing the system, understanding how to work the camera, as to work video. Now I'm getting compensated for that as an extra source of income, but I'm doing it my way. I wasn't forced into like trying to want to just be a videographer. I'm doing it because I'm interested and I want to see what's my potential in this. And so if I see myself at a point where like, yeah, I did the whole editing at one point. I did the whole like color, you know, all this stuff like post-processing work, and I hated it. And that's when I learned I was like, I just want to create content, motion content, but I don't want to edit. I limit myself on that. Yeah, I got editors. I don't mind giving paychecks to people. I don't have to take all the budget. I think at the beginning was more about like, I want to take this all 10 grand.
Yeah.
Now it's like, nah, I'm stressing myself out. Nah, I'll take half of it and the other half I'll give it to somebody.
That's key right there. I mean, that's
Yeah,
part of why in helping you deal with not burning out is I think
yeah,
some people they get too wrapped up in like, if I don't have my hands on every aspect of the process, it's not mine. And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
you have to delegate work. You have to delegate stuff that, whether it's I don't have the time to do it or it's not really in my wheelhouse, give it to somebody who's a professional at that. Give some,
right.
give it to a video person who can get your audio sounding great and get
Yeah.
your the best
Lighting.
video out of you. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're paid to do. And at
Exactly.
the end of the day, it's a reflection of, I'd rather have a product that looks good, sounds good, rather than to say, oh, I did everything myself. It
And
doesn't matter if it's
it's
trash.
mediocre work. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mediocre work. Yeah, no, no. You don't want to be represented. You don't want to put your rapport and your branding and stuff like that way. I think
Yeah.
I've learned throughout the last years is like you can't do it yourself. You need a team. And that's one thing that the community does, like not being too selfish on a lot of things and being humble
Mhm.
and always reminding yourself of like what it took to get here, and the people that actually helped you get here are the ones that you really should like, stand by as much as possible. And that's why like, and I do that the same thing with like, not only with friends, but I do that with brands. Like I pick and choose my brands as like I'm choosing friends. And I want it to be mutual. You know, I'm very transparent when I talk to like whether you're an employer of a brand or like the actual like uh brand client itself, whatever it is. I'm very transparent on what I can do for you, and what I cannot do for you. But I have people that can do this for you. And it's so like you keep it very transparent on your limitations, because at the end of the day, when you see the results of whatever it is, they will respect the fact that they just want the results, and they want it
Mm.
the way they want it. And I'm willing to help you get that, you know, as much as possible. But I can't do it myself, you know. But this is all I can give you right now. And and a lot of times they'll be like, okay, thanks, Tuz. I'll definitely keep you in mind for the next one. And like wait a couple of months, and then they'll be like, Tuz, remember the conversation we had? And it's like, yeah, I want to work with you on this particular project, not the last one, but I want you to focus on this one. And so it creates a good partnership, if anything. Whereas like
Totally.
two same like-minded people understand each other, and where everything doesn't feel like it's a job, and everything feels like fun. Everything feels like very like potentially um a great experience, if anything else. And that's the way I look at it, anything that I do, even with working with models, working with like non-models, just working with people, working with families, working with like, I'm very transparent what I can do and what I cannot do. So don't expect me to do things that you don't you need, but I can't provide. I'm just not that type of guy. And I'll be like, that's fine. I'm not that guy for you. Just I can offer a couple other contacts that you can reach out. And I think that creates uh a good relationship, if anything else. You're not burning bridges. You're kind of being transparent and being honest with people as much as possible. And I don't know, like at the beginning, I was just like, yeah, I could do it all. You know, I could do it
I
all.
love that. That's such a
Yeah.
great mentality. I mean, for those of you out there listening, really, you know, you always hear people who, oh, don't say no, take on everything.
Oh no.
But it's like you can say yes, but having that network behind you, like you look, I'm gonna say yes. I'm not gonna tell you no. I'm gonna say yes. I can't do it, but I have somebody over here that can do it.
Yeah.
Or building that network out where you can throw work to people, and that is always going to come back to you. And it's look, it comes full circle. It's like you work hard, you're nice to people. I think that's the biggest thing right there, being easy to work with, right?
Oh, very.
Setting your
50% of
boundaries
that.
early, right?
Yeah.
Like how many people, you just said it yourself, like brands, you pick and choose. If a brand's going to give you a hard time, then it's not worth your aggravation at that point.
Yeah. I think you know, I'll go back to like when I lost my identity, as that it's because I was saying yes to everything.
Mm,
And it took me to like kind of stop myself from like photography. As far as like I went to Ecuador, and I went back to just bringing one camera, the same lens that I started with. And I shot my grandmother for like that whole week. And I just focused on that one lens and that one camera, just like I did when I first started. And then put me back in place of exactly why I wanted to do this at the beginning. And so it definitely put me in a situation where like I it made me feel like I'm back as who I initially was. So it took me to get away from everything and go back to just being the simple Toots, the simple guy, the simple person that bought a kit camera, and find out exactly what was the reasoning of you getting into this field and in this industry. And it was because of that. Because
yeah.
I wanted to like provide a personal feeling in my images as much as possible, the way I envision it, not trying to satisfy the trend or like trying to like meet the expectations of like what is popular out there, to be like sort of like in the cool crew, or in that type of like always being hired. Oh, he's doing what's happening now, so let's hire him because he can do it. But it's like you're not standing out. You're just being part of a pool of just like the same people that are doing the same thing. So how are you feeling valuable for yourself in that aspect if you constantly comparing yourself with like thousands of people that are doing the same thing you're doing? And I'm not saying that what I'm doing now, um, there are definitely a lot of photographers that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, just in their own way. But I do feel that my work and the way I capture people, that's my story with them. You know,
Mm,
it's almost like a diary. You know, it's
I love
like,
that.
you know, if I go with you and I shoot with you, I'm not looking into like the purpose of posting. I'm not looking into like to live anywhere other than that, than like in my mind.
You're not shooting to post. You're shooting
I'm
because
shooting for
it's
in the
deeper than
moment.
that.
Yeah.
It's a connection, and you're taking a piece of that person and putting your stamp on it.
Yeah.
And
At the end of the day, I just feel like whatever we did, in that experience or in that moment, I hopefully, I know that I'll look back a year, 2 years, 10 years from now, look at that image, and it'll remind me exactly what we did that day. I might forget it, but that image will remind me exactly what we did that day, what we experienced that day. And that for me is more valuable because it makes me feel like what I used to be or what I was that particular day and see how much I've progressed. So it reminds me exactly who I was and who I am now.
I love
And
that.
it's because of all those different type of experiences that keep coming up that I feel like, wow, I remember vividly what I shot in this with you in this 10 years ago,
Mm,
what lens I used, because I was more focused in the moment than the fucking images I was.
wow.
So
Well, and I think
and
it's interesting that you started what got you first into photography is becoming a father, right?
yeah,
Family,
yeah,
that familiar aspect.
yeah.
When you lost your way, when you got lost in the mix, what brought you back to photography? Family.
My
And it's
grandmother,
like
yeah, family brought
it's
me back.
it's that personal, like that touches me because my inspiration has always been like the old 4x6 photos,
Yeah,
prints,
yeah,
albums and shoe boxes
yeah.
of photos looking through. And it was like it I hope my mother's
The
not watching or
plastic
listening.
sticking together, like
The plastic peeling it out to
peel it
fix it. And like, and they
don't touch
weren't.
that photo, it's gonna peel, it's gonna break. It's gonna
You feel it peeling off the back, and it's
like,
like, no. And then my mother freaking out, like, you're gonna ruin
yeah,
it. But it's like she wasn't a good photographer. Half the time she's like, oh, I don't have any film, or oh, I don't have a battery in my camera.
yeah.
And but if the images she did take, I think you just hit something so key that just resonated with me that like you can look back at a
Mhm.
nondescript day. We all remember the big birthdays. We remember the big events. We remember the weddings.
Yeah,
I hate to announce this the wedding photography industry, but if the wedding photography industry collapsed, people would still remember their weddings. Like
mhm,
you remember it. But are you
yeah,
going to remember a random Tuesday in April from 15 years ago that you just met up with a friend and took a walk around the city? You have pictures now. Pictures are going to bring you back to, and it's so funny how you said like you remember the camera, the lens, you remember all these details just through a set of images or through one image, and that's that power right there. Like it's, I don't know.
it's unexplainable to tell you the truth. And again, it's even like the subject, like they're so busy into like their life. It's like a pause for them when they look at images that the same thing is a reminder. It's like Toots. I remember when we shot this, wow. And it reminds them of who they were when they shot me to who they are now. It just makes them feel like, like almost like a timestamp in their lifestyle of like either they've progressed or what they need to improve or how they improve, or maybe they want to go back to like remind them exactly like of a situation where or a state of mind that you feel like, you know what, I'm glad this resetted me on what I need to focus on moving forward.
Mm,
Or it can tell you that, wow, I've done so well since that day that we shot. Like I've progressed so much and I've changed so much. I get so many text messages too. I remember that image. Oh my God, we got to catch up. There's so much has happened to me. I need to tell you everything, what I've done. I'm like, wow, I'm glad that image made you realize such emotion, such feeling. And that for me, that feels like I've served my purpose in that. Not how many likes it got, not how like viral it went, honestly, tell you the truth. That really doesn't, that's just not for me. I never really wanted to focus on like the results of of what we do. It's just more like the experience of how we did it. And that goes with everything that I do when it comes to like commercial work, business work, personal work, my own work, private work. It's just more about like how much effort and time and patience and perseverance and determination you put into it just to like feel like you're valuable. You're still giving back somehow.
Do you do
Um,
a lot of personal work? Do you mix projects in, or is it more just something like? Do you ever carry your camera around and just snap like your day to day stuff?
I do. I do. Most of it has to do with my family. And I think I like to separate that a lot because I don't need nobody to know what I'm
Mhm.
experiencing. That's my personal life. Like I feel like I have my own like folder, my own like albums of shit that I've shot within the last 20 years of stuff that I've done on my hand that I don't need to share. It just
Great.
makes me feel like where I was. I don't need nobody else to know. Like I don't think people are gonna connect to that because they're not living through that. I'm
Yeah.
living through it.
That's for you to look back on and reflect
Yeah,
and
it made me feel, yeah, it made me understand exactly what it's like, separation of like personal and business, you know,
yeah,
like what I post on my IG on my website is a lot of like stuff that, yeah, it's more catered to like what I want to do, but it's also, that's for the public to understand most of it, you know,
mhm.
like to see what I have done,
It's like
what I,
who it's like what I do versus who I am. So your
yeah,
personal image is like, this is me, this is who I am. I can look back and I can be proud of how far I've come,
yeah,
where I'm at. I can look
yeah.
back and I could remember and reminisce and get nostalgic. But what's out on your feed, on your website, like this is what I do.
Yeah, I don't think I need to explain a lot of that to a lot of people out there because I'm a very private person, but at the same time, I don't want to be too secretive. You know, there's a
Mhm.
difference between that. Um, I come from a very like private lifestyle. We if anything, like before social media came aboard, like I was just doing my thing. You know, it's like I didn't need to share. So
Mhm.
and like a lot of these youth are now like they come up from that environment where like automatically you have to share, you have to share, you have to share. I don't come from that background. I don't need to share. It doesn't bother me like a day if I don't share something. And I think like Instagram at the beginning, don't get me wrong, the dopamine kicked in when it first started. It's like, oh, I gotta post 3 images a day. I gotta post this at 9, I gotta post this at 12, and I gotta post at 5. Because that's the time people like take a lunch, go to breakfast, or whatever it is, you
Got
know,
the
or leave
schedule
work.
going.
But I was like, that was like, for what? Why do people care what I post at the end of the day? Like, it's not, is it
Did you
really
hit
like, I
did you
don't
hit a
know.
point where like it wasn't like the serotonin just wasn't hitting, where you were just like,
It's
great,
depressing. It's depressing.
really?
Yeah, it's like, why am I torturing myself through this? Why? Why am I doing this? To prove that I'm like out
You
there
got
doing
sick of
it?
fire emojis?
Oh my God. I'm not gonna lie, I still do that with my friends. I'm like, that's fire, bro. That's
It's
fire.
easy, man. It's a quick hit right there.
I just do the heart now, like the little.
There you go. I try to find out, and then I'll sit there and second guess, like, wait, does this like convey what I? Are they gonna think it's just generic? Go
Yeah,
through like
right.
5 different, and then I'll
Yeah,
end up with some random like fried egg emoji or something.
yeah. I
But
mean, I've definitely like laid low on a lot more stuff now, you know, because I just wanted to focus more on like where I need to be next year, if anything. And a
mhm,
lot of it just you know, like photography. I'm always gonna be a photographer. I'm always gonna shoot. That's never gonna end. I don't care if Instagram's not here. I have my website, so if people want to see what I do, just go to my website. You don't need to be on. I don't need. You don't need to follow me on Instagram to know what I'm doing. Just go to my website. If you really want to know, just go to my website. Everything is there. You see my bio, you see my picture, you see what I've done, you see what I'm doing. Um, and if you have a question, just email me. That's plain and simple. It's plain and simple. It's nothing hard about that. If people really want to get to know what I'm capable of doing, I don't want it to be based off a social media post. I don't think that one post or one feed really um, really describes who you really are or who you're really trying to be. It's just a
mhm.
moment. That post can be like how you feel that particular moment doesn't mean how you are really, like almost all the time. If anything, you know, you can change. People change. And
Definitely.
as long as you're proud of it, as long as you're like, you know, you accept it and you feel like the process that went through that, it's worth posting, then do it. That's all it is. As long as it makes you feel like, wow, I know what it took to get this image for myself, and I want to remind myself what it took it, so I'm gonna post it. And
That's such
I'm doing it for a reminder for myself. So
That's a great outlook. I feel like everybody's lost sight of it's I see people who are trying too hard, like, how do I be a brand ambassador? How do I get more followers? How do
yeah,
I do this? And it's like, you just want to tell them, like, I've seen the other side. It's not as bright. Like, just do it. You're not going to be fulfilled. It's going to be like picking up like a pack of Twinkies instead of just
yeah,
take the time, make yourself a proper meal.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to get into some of your images
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you
sure,
got
sure.
some great stuff, man. So we're gonna rock this share screen here. Let me just make sure I can pop through. Okay. So I'll do a nice little slow roll through. And if there's something you want to stop on, I want like this is gonna be a trip down memory lane, I'm sure, for
Wow.
you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if there's like, you know, if you want to stop on an image or if I skip past something, just be like, hey, jump back on that. I want to talk for a minute on that. So it,
Y-
this reminds
I,
me of the old photo walk days.
yeah, yeah. This was actually one of this was for Photoville, actually. I did this is one of my first ever photo walks with Photoville, and I think it was spun and via Leica. So this was I was offered Leica reached out to me and they were like, hey, we love your work. We would love to know if you would be willing to do a photo walk with, you know, with Photoville. And I was like, hell yeah, why not? And, you know, I didn't know what to expect, but I figured like we've done a lot of photo walks throughout the years. So
Mhm.
I use that as a, you know, guidance, a guide of what we need to do. And just, I met a lot of great people there. You know, it's like, I think that was my first experience understanding more like outside your range of people, of community, and connecting with new individuals, and how, you know, it mixtures from like pro photographers who've been doing it for 20 years to like, you know, iPhone, you know, you see like smartphones there, you see a lot of people that are, you know, like actually the main guy, the portrait here, he's a really good friend of mine that I haven't seen in a while. I think like we connected through like Instagram, and he, you know, he came by and supported. He's such a gentle guy, he's actually a cinematographer. So
Oh,
I
nice.
think the support was really cool here. I really love this environment here because it felt like he has my attention, but you can see how much distraction is around him.
Mhm. I gotta throw it out there because you know we're B&H, we deal in
Yeah,
gear.
go for
What's
it.
what's your go-to setup?
Right now is definitely uh I'm just, as far as like my go-to right now for every day is my Leica
Mhm.
Q2.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's my everyday lens right now. Like my everyday camera where I shoot.
Mhm.
As of now. And it's a really good camera, but if I use just like a body, I think honestly right now I've been, you know, like a 50 millimeter is always like my favorite. It is. Uh
Okay.
24 will probably be my second choice as far as like focal length.
Mhm.
And then that's pretty much it. Like I've definitely used like Canon for a long time for like a lot of like work in the past,
Mhm.
but I've definitely geared towards more. I started with Canon a long time ago, but right now I just feel like when I started to get into film and I started to get into analog, I've been like working my way more towards just keeping it like solid, basic, small, and like intentional bodies, like my M6,
Mhm.
my 35 millimeter, um, my Leica Q. My Leica Q2 is probably like my money right now. It's just what I will not leave my house without it right now.
Yeah.
It's
And I
simple,
think
it's easy. It's a 20, you know, it's a 28 focal length.
mhm.
And it's a, you know,
I think it
I
fits your
love it.
style. Like
Yeah.
the look. When you think Leica, when you think the obviously the optics and the quality, but just the way the files are, the way the images look, the way that the light and the colors render. When I look at your work, that's what I naturally would think of if I were to
Yeah.
think of a system.
Uh, I think the color balance is definitely one of my favorite, the color science and these things. Yeah, that was
Mhm.
shot with my M240 with a 35. I know that. I know that because I remember it when I was using that. I
I
love.
love you know what I love, man, is that you do a ton of portrait work, right? It's like
Mhm.
portraits all day, and 50 and 24. And it's like you don't like I love that about your work. If you look at like this image right here, the framing,
Mhm.
because I pick images apart,
Right.
and just the way you composed it and how many people are going to get tied up, and it's all about the model, it's not about the environment. They're going to leave, they're going to crop that light spill on the bottom of the frame, not seeing that
Mhm.
it fills up that negative space nicely. Like I just think it's a beautiful composition. And I think when you shoot wider, you have to be more intentional with your images, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
your images are very intentional. You're able to take wide and go, there's going to be some shots that we're going to come through that you can tell it's like you're on that 24 millimeter end of the spectrum. Like, look right here,
Yeah.
you make it beautiful, man. How many people, when you take a picture of someone and it has that distortion, they're like, wait, you're not taking a picture with that lens, are you? You're gonna put like a portrait lens on?
I've had that mentioned to me in the past. I was like, "How are you gonna take a portrait with a 28 millimeter?" I was like, "I'll make it work. I'll see." It's just all about perspective. It's all about lighting. It's all about composition. Sometimes don't get me wrong, these are like the best pictures from that. I've definitely gotten some warp situations but
Mhm.
that's learning experience, right?
Yeah,
You don't want their head all the way into the corner of the frame, that's for sure. But you try to get everything as much center as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, this is with the Leica Q.
Okay.
This is definitely my Leica Q3, Q2. I love it. Oh, okay.
This one,
See,
when I was going through your images, this one stopped me.
I stopped you.
Yeah,
What do
just
you
the
what do you
frame.
think is the focal length on that one?
Oh man, you're gonna press me. I would say
It's not cropped. It's not cropped at all.
not crowd. I would say 50,
Yeah.
50 wide open.
Yeah, that was a Knock Deluxe 095.
Wow. Okay. I
That's
was gonna say.
it. And now, and this is obviously now just to put some context, this was like 2016 maybe,
Mhm.
where I was really, I think when it came to portraiture, I really wanted to shoot like as wide open as possible in
Mhm.
an environment. That's for sure.
Mhm.
I always wanted to focus on like, this is when I was addicted to like, if I had an 095, I want to shoot everything in 095 to see what exactly I can get these portraits, how I can make these portraits work. And this was like this is with an M9 and a Noctil in the Noctilux 095, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
And I'm gonna throw to the disclaimer out to all of our viewers. Obviously, we have modesty standards here. We got to keep it family friendly.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
we're showing you a very small fraction. There's some of your work that is just blows minds, but
But
we obviously can't
it's
show it
good
here.
though. It's a reminder of what how I used to shoot.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, this is with the Noctilux too, in low lighting. Yeah, this is the first. Oh yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. No,
Okay,
go
we're
back.
taking. I'm jumping all over.
You're just like making me nostalgic.
I wanted to get to this now because I
Yeah,
love everybody. Come on, this is right off the block from B&H.
yeah,
Everybody. I
man.
walk
That's
by
the
this all the
steps.
time, and I'm like, if
Those
anytime I have
steps,
my camera
bro.
on, you stop. It's and there's always the pigeons there.
Yeah, you can never get no pictures in that.
That line, dude, from left to right, like that's the light, the line, like
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
the
I
contrast.
yeah, I mean, this was a very impromptu shoot too. We decided to walk around, um, and I was just like, "Yo," and I was shooting. You know, a lot of these bodies are like manual focusing,
Mhm.
and obviously she's not sharp, but I don't. It's not
Doesn't
about like
matter.
it doesn't matter. It's just really like feeling the moment exactly. Reminds me of this, and it goes back to this. It's like I remember exactly what we did, exactly how we walked through this, and how we got here, and how I told her, "Yo, I want you to run down and walk down towards me, and just don't care about the pigeons. Just don't worry about nothing else. Don't worry about me trying to get the perfect shot. Just walk, and I'm gonna see how this is gonna come out." And this is one of like maybe like 20 shots that we did, and obviously there's a lot of them birds in her face in like the
Mhm.
outtakes and stuff like that, but this is probably the most best framed one that I got. And once I got it, I was like, we don't need to do this anymore. It's fine. I'm not trying to get it perfect, because if I really was focused on perfection here, I would try to tell her keep going back until I get her sharp, but I
But
didn't care.
then it kills it turns the raw experience into a shoot. It turns it
Yeah,
into, hold on, I got it.
yeah,
And I love that, man. You got me, I got the feels over here because I
that's
think
good.
for so many people who it's a beautiful time that we can all capture our everyday life. Remember moments like this in vivid imagery, and we don't have to rely on memories that are going to fade.
Yeah,
And just like like I look at this and I see the excitement in your face that you get and how you get brought back, and it takes me back to walking around the city with friends. And it's like, and
yeah,
it's not about people picking it apart and zooming in and saying, oh well, this is blurry and this is soft focus and this is
yeah, yeah,
it's about the moment. It was the last thing when I looked at this. The first thing that jumped out had nothing to do with the technical aspect. It just had to do with, oh my God, those steps. I know those steps. Those are
right,
my steps.
right.
And it's a feeling. And I think that's what's really important.
Oh yeah, this was at the Met Museum. I love this guy. This guy, he was a dancer, and again, another situation where we just kind of like it was unplanned. This was not something like we spoke about it. We just kind of said like, "Hey, this lighting is amazing, and can you just dance here? I just want to shoot you here because it's like a soft balance, you know, of light and again, manual focusing here. You know, I didn't really care. I was trying to get it as best as possible without motion blur. But I was happy with this image so much with just like the composition and how incredibly talented he was, obviously. You know,
Mhm.
like as dancers, I'm so another one. This is the Leica Q2. Yeah, this is a little bit like a BTS type of vibe.
I love it. It's
Yeah,
got
it's
like a
fun.
nice editorial. This looks like a magazine photo to me. And I always, when I say magazine photo, that's my standard of like, if something would be in a magazine, like just it hits all the points. I look at it and it says something to me.
Yeah, and she reached out to me recently. She's like, she really had a great time when I posted these like images recently. It reminded her of like, Toots, this was such a fun day. I need to go back to this type of like vibe and energy and feel. And again, it's just that's what I hope for most of the time. It's like I just want you to be you. Don't worry
Mm.
about trying to be somebody else. Just be you. Don't try to prove yourself to nobody else. I'm trying to just want you to bring your personality out on this because no one else is like you. And that goes for everybody that I work with. You know, no one else is like another person. Oh
You know what
wow.
I think is, you know what I love about your work, Toots, is that I can't tell who's a professional model, who's a friend,
Amazing.
who's a model that isn't necessarily a professional model, but like a weekend warrior just starting out. Like everybody, you get a certain sense of expression and feeling, and it just feels like everybody feels like you're just walking around the city
Hmm.
with a photogenic friend.
Yeah. Damn, like a lot of these people I don't even keep in touch with. That's crazy,
That's
especially at this.
crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember this. This was in Coney Island, in the inside streets, like in the actual. Wow, this was really. I remember this one.
I love this. The trip down memory lane. This I love.
Oh
This is
my
one of my
god,
favorite images of the group.
really? I
I
love
love
the whole
this.
feel of this. It's such a hazy day with the lights in the back.
Just
Yeah,
everything, the expression, even
yeah,
just the like everything. Like I love images that convey emotion. This conveys like I'm up
yeah,
there. I want to know what you're laughing at, but it's like we've all everybody in New York has had that rooftop chill with a friend or a group of friends where you're just bugging
yeah.
out and you have the most beautiful backdrop in the world behind you.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember. So now going back to this, I told her not to look, don't look down, just don't look down. And she did, and then she started cracking up. I was like, shit. Well, this is what we're getting. Just don't look back, don't lean back, please don't lean back. Uh,
Look, we're wrapping this
oh
up,
damn!
man. I had to end on that. I'm like, I don't even want to click next because I'm like,
I
it
appreciate
just
that though. Thanks for bringing me back.
look,
Thanks for bringing
and
me
it's
back.
it's crazy. I'm not even making this up. It's like I see your face, and your face is like your friend. Like wow, like you lit up in
Yeah,
looking, and I think looking back through our old work is important, not just to see the path we've come, but you look back in your old work, and it's like, you know what? That was I thought at the time we all thought we were horrible and we thought we weren't doing
oh,
anything. And you look back and you're like, you know what? There was something there. And it's interesting to see to like almost like a puzzle game of what did I see? Why did I take this image? What was I thinking at the time? And now you're looking at it Monday morning quarterbacking, you're looking at it in hindsight and you know like, oh, would I still take that same image? Am I still looking at the same things that I looked at back then? It's interesting to reflect on that.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of these images brought a lot of great memories. Almost like an emotional state. I'm definitely in an emotional state. It'd be like how like to a point where I feel like there's an intensity in what we just saw for me as far as because a lot of them are like from like 2015, 2016, 2018. And it makes me feel very proud of where I've come so far. And I think that's why I take pictures because 10 years from now, looking at the pictures that I've taken this year, I hope that I still feel that way with the images that I take now, 10 years from now. And I think that's what I aspire. I think that's my aspiration in general, even like in commercial work. Like I feel like, wow, I remember like, and I think that's what keeps my drive keep going. It's not really the numbers, never been about the numbers. Ultimately, it's never been about the numbers. When you kind of like put yourself in a wall, in a room, and you feel like what exactly is important for you, what is valuable to you is this feeling that I have right now. And if I continue to feel this about my imagery, my work, and the people I work with, then I'm in the right path always. And I always feel like I'm in the right path.
I love that. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. I think it's a testament to how you've been. You're still the same person you were when you first picked up a camera. And I think that's beautiful, man. I think there's this sense of authenticity with you that makes you that much more relatable, that much more likable. And it shows through in your images on every single one I look at. I see that. There's no pretentiousness. There's no like, hey, I made it.
Yeah.
It's just I'm still that
Uh,
guy that is passionate about picking up a camera and taking you, whoever is in front of my lens, on the journey with me. And I love that,
yeah.
man.
Beautiful.
Love
That's
it.
beautifully well put, honestly. I appreciate that, man. I could hug you right now, bro.
There we go. Bring it in.
Bring it in, bring it in.
I can't thank you enough, man. This is like we were joking around in the green room, like, come on, how could I hate my job? I get to come on and talk to the greatest people in the industry, and like this is it for me, for somebody who's not only, a respected member of B&H, but I'm a fan. I love your work. It's inspiring. It motivates me. It makes me want to go pick up a camera and go walk around in the streets and
Amazing.
capture today. And I think that's what it's about. So Toots, I want to thank you, and I can't thank you enough. I want to thank you, from the bottom of my heart, man. This is such a great hour. I want to thank Leica for making this happen. Of course, the whole team over there has been great for us to work with. And any final words? Let us know where we could find your work.
Tutes.nyc. That I'm not even gonna mention my Instagram. Just just go to my website. And I do want to plug in that I do have a workshop coming up
Go
on
for it.
October 29th. Details hasn't been sent, but the only thing that has been confirmed so far is just the date, October 29th right now. So keep an eye out for that.
That'll
Obviously,
be on your website.
yeah, I'll put it on my
Awesome.
website for sure. And I'll send you a text, bro.
Definitely, bro. Well, thank you again, bro. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to see more of your stuff and continue this relationship we have, man, for sure.
Definitely, bro. We'll be in touch. And for all of our viewers, thank you guys. I'm going to turn it back over here to do my nice little smooth Ron Burgundy camera turn. Another rendition of the B&H virtual event space, Leica Stories edition, is in the books. Catch y'all next time.